Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Advocacy Bootcamp. This is day 4 of the Girls' Human Rights Festival. We hope you'll have a wonderful day today. We've got an amazing day lined up for you. We've got some plenary panels where you're going to listen to some experts talking about advocacy. Does anybody know what advocacy is? Have a go. What do we mean by advocacy? Yeah.
Being able to advocate for yourself.
Yeah. Any other words that you can think of? Yeah. Yes, it can be related to law. Anything else? Yeah. Getting your point across. Speaking out about something. Anybody else? Yeah, it's all of those things. It's about activism. It's about bringing about change. And that's what this workshop is about. What we want to do, hopefully by the end of today, is give you some tools and some skills that will help you bring about change. If, for example, you feel there's something not right and you want to change it and you want to fix it, how do you go about doing that? And there are lots of tools that you can use to do that. So if, for example, let's say at your school, you don't have menstrual products in the toilets, in the bathrooms, and you'll discover that actually lots of girls sometimes don't go to school because when they're on their period, they're a little bit worried and they don't go to school. Not just in the UK, it's everywhere around the world. So this can be a factor that stops girls from enjoying all the rights that they should be allowed to enjoy. And so how do you then go about advocating for this right? And so we've got some amazing speakers, we've got some amazing campaigners. Janie, who's here, will also be running one of the workshops. She's an incredible activist, and she'll teach you how to go about designing your own campaign, how to run your campaign and get the result that you want. So how do you persuade your school to provide these products, for example, if the school doesn't provide it? And that's just one example. If, for example, girls aren't getting the same resources in terms of education, how do you lobby? Who do you lobby? Who do you approach to try and get those resources into school? If, for example, you're a sportswoman, you enjoy sports, but again, you feel you're excluded, that the boys' team gets more resources put in or they get more training, how do you bring that change about? So you'll learn all about strategizing and tactics, about lobbying, and how you evaluate your actions and how you go about improving your campaign in terms of achieving the outcomes you want to achieve. So that's what this bootcamp is about. So in terms of what will happen today, we've got a couple of plenary sessions. So you'll hear activists talking about the campaigns that they themselves have run and have been successful in. You've then got a workshop. So there'll be 3 workshops running at the same time. And I'll break you up into different groups and you'll go and learn from the different trainers during that session. And honestly, you will feel super powerful by the end of it. In the afternoon, we have, so this event, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it and who's sponsoring it and who's behind it. But we're here at Old Square Chambers and they are our legacy sponsor. Legacy sponsor is the highest form of sponsorship. And so Old Square have sponsored this event this day today. And so you will have in the afternoon 3 King's, we'll actually have 4 King's Council who come and speak to you at a plenary session. And then 3 of the King's Council will provide you training. So again, you'll be broken up into groups and they will teach you how to speak up and advocate for yourself. And so it's an incredible opportunity throughout the entire day. You've got amazing activists and King's Council. Does anybody know now what King's Council is? Anyone to hazard a guess? I wouldn't know that.
Somebody whose mum isn't one.
Anyone have a go? What's that? Yeah. Yes, so almost. So it's more than 10 years experience. When you're the best amongst lawyers, you are appointed King's Counsel. And so we have Rebecca Tuck over here, a formidable King's Counsel, who will also be running one of the workshops in the afternoon, but she will in a few moments come up here to say a few words. But yeah, King's Counsel is the highest rank of barristers in the country. And there aren't as many women barristers as there are men, but we are very, very lucky to have 4 King's Counsel joining you this afternoon to do your training session. Now, let me just tell you, does anybody know what Girls' Human Rights Hub is? What, does anybody has anyone looked us up? Anybody, any ideas? No, no Googling. All right, when you go home, Google us, look us up. Girls' Human Rights Hub is a platform that I created with my daughter Safia, who's over here, who's 11. When she was about 9 or so, she was a bit of a frustrated lawyer, and Safia wanted to bring about change. And so I thought, I'm also King's Counsel, and I thought, okay, well, I know how to speak, and I really want to teach her how to do it, so that if she has any issues she wants to resolve, any difficulties, any change she wants to bring about, if she has those skills, she can do it herself. And so that's where the idea came from. And so it took us 2 years to develop the hub, and we launched last year in June 2023. And we got quite a lot of coverage in the press. So I think we got something in the region of 379 million in terms of people reading about us. So it seemed to strike a chord with a lot of people. Now, people ask, well, why set up? Actually, not a lot of people do, because I think they actually know inside why we need a platform for girls. Girls' rights have always been a part of women's rights. They're sort of like a category within women's rights, or they're a category within children's rights, but they've never been seen independently. And the truth is that girls actually suffer when they suffer from violations of human rights. It's much more severe for girls because of their age. So if you look at child marriage, it's girls who are getting married off when they're children, when they're under 18. When you look at female genital mutilation, again, it's young girls that are being subjected to female genital mutilation. Girls are particularly vulnerable. So just to give you some idea of the statistics, in the world, there are 129 million girls that are not in school. Okay? Some will never set foot inside a school. Some may go to primary school and that's it. And then they're put to work or they're married off, or they do household chores. And so they never get to experience everything that education gives them. You have 736 million girls and women who have been at some point subjected to sexual and domestic violence. So if you imagine, that's 1 in 3 girls in the world at some point has been subjected to violence. Over 200 million girls in 30 countries have undergone female genital mutilation. 500 million girls and women don't have access to sanitary products or basic hygiene facilities. So sometimes they don't even have access to toilets, okay, and sanitary products. 71% of all human trafficking involves girls and women, and they're trafficked mainly for purposes of sexual exploitation. And so the statistics are awful. And so what we want to do is create a hub where we bring the focus and the attention back on girls' human rights. We want, not just as a category or a subset of something else, but on its own. We want this recognition of girls' rights and what girls suffer. So the idea behind the hub is that all girls are architects of their own lives and their own futures, that you get to make the decisions, and that we want all girls to live a life that's free of discrimination and violence. So why have we called this a festival if the situation is so bad? This is a festival because we actually want to celebrate you, and we want to celebrate girls. We want to celebrate who you are, as you are, and we want to celebrate all the things we want you to achieve and we hope you will achieve alongside the work that we do. We want you to be a part of our movement, and we want you to bring about change wherever you feel it's needed. We want you to have the tools and the skills to run your own mini campaigns. It could be in your school, it can be in your community, it can be in your locality. You can run national campaigns, you can run international campaigns. We want you to know that you have the power to do that you can bring about change. People always saying, oh, it's just me, what can I do? But actually, every single person has the power to bring about change. Every single person has that in them, and it's a case of just knowing how to do it, and that's what we want to teach you. When we launched with our campaign that we launched with was called 1 in a Million, and so our goal is to train 1 million girls around the world. And what we say to you is that we want you to be part of that 1 in a million. That's why I have this caption here, be that 1 in a million. So anyway, I will speak later on in between the plenaries and the workshops, but we have an ambassador scheme that we're running. We launched it at the beginning of the festival. We've had a huge take up, and the ambassador scheme is aimed at people who want to set up mini hubs at their schools, colleges, or universities. And of course, we will guide you along the way, and we will help you organize, set up, organize, and run the hub. Okay, anyway, anyone who's interested, please do approach myself or Ilvana at the back, or we have our young experts, 3 of our young experts, and Yana over there. Approach us and we can take your details down and then get in contact with you later on as to how to set up these hubs. Anyway, I've spoken for far too long. I will now hand you over to the formidable Rebecca Tuck Casey from Old Square Chambers, who will say a few words to welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. So this is Old Square Chambers. We are a set of barristers' chambers. So a lot of you may already know that we've used the word lawyer in the UK to cover a whole host of people. So it can cover solicitors. They work in firms. Who here went to Hogan Lovells or Field Fisher? Yeah, so you've seen that they're big law firms, very impressive offices, very special. Law firms can be lots of different sizes. And I think 55% now of solicitors coming into the profession are women, which is great. The other big category of lawyers are barristers. And those of us at the independent bar, because you can be a barrister for a big company, but most of us are at the independent bar, and we are all self-employed. We get paid per piece of work we do, and we join together in sets of chambers to share expenses. But we might be against somebody in chambers, and we might be on 2 different sides of the same case. That happens quite often when you're in specialist areas. So our chambers doesn't do any crime. What's the other type of law? If you don't do crime, if it's to do with individuals against each other, do you know what that's called? Yeah, civil law, exactly. We do civil law. So here we do employment, personal injury, a bit of professional regulation. So naughty nurses and naughty doctors and naughty dentists who go to their regulatory bodies. Those are the main areas that we do. And I very definitely didn't want to do crime because I absolutely believe that every rapist and murderer needs somebody to defend them. And it wasn't going to be me.
Not me.
It wasn't going to be me. Absolutely. You can't have a fair prosecution and a fair conviction unless they've had their say. But it didn't have to be me. So I was always going to do civil law. And if you want to do civil law, you can do people law or not. And within people law, there's family, personal injury, employment are the big areas. And I didn't much fancy family because that's what they traditionally shoved the women barristers into. And you've heard Sultana kindly say that about KCs, we're also known as silks. We used to be QCs, which was much better. QC just had a much nicer ring to it, but we're now King's Counsel. And we get to wear silk robes when we go to court. So we're also known as silks. It's nearer 20 years before you can apply for it. The numbers are getting better in terms of number of women, but we're still at about 16%. About 16% of silks are women. So it's still very much the minority. And again, the number of barristers coming into the profession, men and women, we're doing quite well. We're getting toward 50%, but we've got a big problem with retention and progression. So it's okay getting in at the junior level, but we need to keep people and we need people to do better. So that's where you are. You're a set of barristers' chambers. And if you've all managed to get onto the Wi-Fi and you go to the Girls' Human Rights Hub, you will see the agenda for today. So as Sultana's told you, this morning you're starting with 2 plenary sessions, two sessions where you'll be hearing from fantastic panelists. And your first one is about to start, and that's shaping the gender equality movement. And if you go onto the website, you can click onto each of the speakers and see how impressive they all are. You're going to do 2 plenary sessions, and then we're going to have tea, coffee, water, juice break in the middle of the morning. It's about 11:30. And you all know where the bathrooms are. If anybody has any problems in the day, the fantastic Ruth on reception should be one of your first ports of call, and she will help you. And once you have got your caffeine fix, for those of you who've joined us in the addicted states, or your water, for those of you who are not yet there, you will be doing a bit of work in your advocacy workshops between 11:45 and lunchtime at 1. We're going to have lunch between 1 and 2, and I want you all to set yourself a target of meeting at least 1 and preferably 2 people in this room who you've never laid eyes on before. And that means finding out their name, where they go to school or what they do, and 1 interesting fact about them. Yeah, so at least 1, possibly 2, because you're going to learn how to do what we call networking. So, and I'm going to be checking in on you because I'm speaking immediately after lunch. So I might pick on any of you to tell me who you've met, what their name is, and what their interesting fact is. So my interesting fact is that I played rugby for my university, and then I played Premiership rugby. I didn't get into the England squad, which was probably better for my career, but I played a lot of rugby for a lot of years. And when I last asked this, when I was teaching advocacy to young barristers, I came across somebody who had a camel, which was just phenomenal. I'd never before met somebody who owned a camel, but now I have. So think of your interesting facts that you're going to share when you're asked. 2 o'clock, you will have the 4 barristers. We're not that scary. They keep saying formidable, but we're not that scary. And the difference between barristers and the people you'll meet this morning is that we are paid to argue a case, and we will argue either side of it. So one of our experts who is dashing in and out is doing an equal pay case. She absolutely believes that women should be paid the same as men for work of equal value. Just so happens she's being paid by a supermarket to argue that their work isn't of equal value, and she'll put just as much effort into that as she would for the other side. So we are advocates, and we take the brief, we take the facts, and that's what we argue. And then you will finish the day by doing advocacy workshops. And some of you will get a brief that you don't necessarily agree with. Some of you will be the stick in the mud saying, no, that changes too much. The economic consequences are too great. The social fallout is too great. And you're going to think about how the other side's arguments will be put. And then when you come back to think about campaigning, you will hopefully have the tools to think, so these are my arguments. What are the other side going to be thinking? What are the other side going to be saying? And how can I take down each of their points? So that is the shape of today. I hope you're all going to have a fantastic time, and you're all going to make sure that you find and use your own voices in the workshop sessions. And I will hand you over to shaping the gender equality movement. Thank you.
Okay, so if we can then please now have our speakers for the first plenary session coming up. And I will hand you over to Alexandra, who will do the moderating.
You.